9:36 here on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO. Joining us right now, GOP political strategist and co-founder of MustReadTexas.com, Matt Mackowiak. Matt, good morning. How are you?
Hey, Matt. Hey, Chad. Good morning.
Thanks for coming on today, Matt. Let's take a look first. Before we get into 2016 news and Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton and all that, I want to take a look at what happened in San Antonio over the weekend, and probably not a lot of folks up here were following it, but it made quite a few headlines down in San Antonio and really throughout the state, and this even ties in with Battleground Texas, correct?
Yeah, the city of San Antonio had their mayor's election last night. It was a runoff election. There was a special election a month ago or so, and there were 4 candidates, one of whom was the Democratic nominee for Lieutenant Governor, Leticia Van de Pute, who was a state senator before that. The mayor who was the interim mayor after Julian Castro left to go to the Obama cabinet, Ivy Taylor, who was a city councilwoman, was appointed by the current city council. She was already a city council member, and she was appointed and promised not to run for the full term. She then got to become mayor and decided to go ahead and run, kind of break that promise. So she got into the runoff with Leticia Van de Pute, and she won something like 53-47 or 52-48 in the runoff on Saturday. Actually, it wasn't that big of a surprise with the polling and most of the kind of the folks that were following this thought she was going to win. She had really targeted Republican voters, even though she's a Democrat. And she did that on 2 issues. There's kind of a boondoggle public works proposal in San Antonio about a streetcar that she helped defeat because it was kind of a huge waste of money. And then she also opposed a equal rights ordinance for businesses in the city. So those 2 issues kind of gave her an opportunity to go win Republican votes from the north side of San Antonio, and she did that, and she narrowly won election to a full term. And of course, Battleground Texas tried to congratulate her for winning because she was a Democrat, and their supporters went crazy online because she opposed the equal rights ordinance. So they had to pull down their congratulatory message on social media.
There's a story out of the Texas Tribune today that says basically the Democrats should be wary of what happened in San Antonio. And as you brought up, the candidate who won, she's still a Democrat. Is she just not as liberal as Leticia Van de Pute? Or how does this work out to where Democrats are taking a black eye on this one?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think she's probably not as doctrinaire and liberally sort of ideological as Van de Pute. Really, you'd have to really think about anybody in the country that's had a worse 7 months than Leticia Van de Pute. She was committee chair of the Texas Senate. She left, even though she wasn't up for re-election in the Senate. She decided that she had a free shot to run for lieutenant governor. She did that. She lost by a huge margin, just as about the same margin Wendy Davis lost by. And then, promised while she was running for lieutenant governor she was not planning on running for mayor, and then of course broke that promise and ran for mayor, and was unable to avoid the runoff, and then now lost, and so now she's not going to be in public office, and I'm sure that's disappointing thing for her, but she's had a pretty rough 7 or 8 months. In terms of Ivy Taylor, Democrats generally support costly government, boondoggles like a streetcar system. And they obviously, like we saw in Houston with Denise Parker, support these equal rights ordinances at the city level. And Taylor, for whatever reason, came up with came to her own answer on those issues. So she clearly doesn't sort of follow the party line. I think she's a much more original thinker than that, and that probably doesn't work very well in the Democratic Party.
What I find fascinating about all this is Leticia Van de Pute, because it was, I believe, Texas Monthly, maybe the Burka blog, that said it was, Leticia Van de Pute who was the rising star, not Wendy Davis. And, you go back and you see this, and now, Wendy Davis obviously her campaign did not go well. Her campaign went basically as expected, from where we're standing. But as far as Battleground Texas, you look at Wendy Davis, who was their rising star. She got knocked out. Texas Monthly had declared that Leticia Van de Putte was their rising star, and both their political careers are done.
Yeah, and it shows that running sort of very traditional liberal Democratic campaigns in Texas is not going to lead you to success. And you've got to be more creative than that. You've got to be more pro-business, more moderate. You got to find a couple issues you can approach Republicans on. And at the statewide level, Wendy Davis and Leticia Van de Pute didn't do that effectively. And now at the city level, Leticia Van de Pute didn't do that, which is really remarkable that a Hispanic female candidate can't win in a Hispanic city like San Antonio. This is the first black mayor San Antonio has had in its history. It's remarkable that a Hispanic city has now elected an African-American mayor.
Yeah, very interesting. Matt, today Jeb Bush makes it official, what we already knew was going to happen. He's running for president for 2016. What does Jeb Bush have to do, I guess, initially to try to bring conservatives over to his side? Because he's a top-tier candidate, obviously. He's going to raise the money, but he's right there in the middle of the pack of top-tier candidates.
Yeah, what's interesting about Jeb is that he actually has a pretty good story to tell for conservatives from his 2 terms as governor. I've heard him make that case, but he has not made it, broadly enough to conservative voters, and he's going to have that opportunity today. Look, he, if you remember, basically signaled he was going to run for president towards the end of last year. He's now, for 6 or 7 months, been, doing this dance where he's not fully a candidate, so his PAC and super PAC can coordinate. And he's been spending his time raising money. He has not been spending as much time campaigning and making the case to voters. He's now entering that phase of the campaign. I think the super PAC has probably raised $100 million. It'll be interesting to see how much his campaign has raised in hard dollars. But he's going to now be much more of a sort of traditional candidate. And so you're going to hear him, I think, today talk a lot about his record as governor, the vetoes of spending, his pro-life record, his pro-Second Amendment record, the pro-school choice reforms he passed as governor when he was in Florida. He's got a good record as governor. Now, the two, big issues that conservatives have problems with him on are immigration and Common Core, and it'll be interesting to see whether he brings those up today. He's talked about, the need for leaders to persuade. And he hasn't persuaded very many conservative Republican primary voters across the country on those two issues. So it'll be interesting to see whether he does that today.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be something we watch for. Visiting with Matt Mackowiak, GOP political strategist, also co-founder of MustReadTexas.com. Matt, what can folks find on MustReadTexas.com today?
Yeah, some sort of reporting on the end of the legislative session now that that's behind us, sort of winners and losers and kind of what's happened. Also, still good amount of coverage of Perry and Cruz and their presidential campaigns. You can find it all the news from across the state at MustReadTexas.com.
All right, Matt, as always, thank you very much. Appreciate your time, and we'll visit with you next week.
Sounds good. Have a great week. Take care.
You too. That's Matt Mackowiak. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Mackowiak.